just want to welcome you all here. I'm not sure if I think I recognize most of you, um, but if you're new to the library and need to exit to use the bathrooms, they're right down the hall on the right-hand side. Um, we are celebrating Choose Privacy Week this week. It's an initiative from the American Library Association, and we have our guests today, and we also have a program on Saturday at 2 o'clock called Protecting Your Privacy Online. But today we're having Robin Putman and Amy Schramm from the Better Business Bureau. Robin is from the Massachusetts Office of Consumer Affairs. And let me go ahead and introduce you both. Amy Schramm is a Senior Community Relations Specialist and has been with Better Business Bureau since 2011 and is responsible for educating the public at large and fostering the business-to-consumer relationship. Prior to joining Better Business Bureau, Amy was traveling throughout New England serving as a motivational speaker for Monsters Making It Count programs. She has previously performed in the entertainment department of the Walt Disney World Company and earned a Bachelor of Arts degree from Emerson College. Robin Putman currently works for the Massachusetts Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulations, serving as its Research and Special Projects Manager. In her role, Robin conducts extensive outreach in dozens of communities throughout the Commonwealth, planning, coordinating, scheduling, and participating in a wide variety of events to provide consumers with information, education, and resources. Many of the planned upcoming consumer events include presentations on topics such as identity theft, fraud prevention, and consumer issues affecting people of all ages. So please help me in welcoming Amy and Robin.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. We tend to start every program with just a little brief overview of the organizations that we each represent, because I think a lot of people may have heard of the Better Business Bureau, or maybe not, or may have heard of the Office of Consumer Affairs, but may not know exactly what it is that our organizations do and how they can be utilized best by consumers. So I'm just going to get started and just start by mentioning that the Better Business Bureau has been around for 105 years. We're a nonprofit organization, and a lot of people are familiar with the Better Business Bureau because you've utilized our free services after you've had a problem with a product or a service or a business. You have an issue with a roofer, a contractor, a plumber, a product you purchased online, and you contact us and you file a formal complaint through us, and then we reach out to the business and serve as the middleman. Essentially, that's what we do. We help facilitate the dialogue between the two parties, the consumer and the company. And we take phone calls like that every single day. But what we really want consumers to know is that you can utilize our free services beforehand. We have a website called bbb.org, and it has over 5 million businesses that you can research and review before you hire them. And that goes for the roofers, the contractors, the plumbers, the big things, the auto mechanics. But nowadays we want to know that the online stores that we're shopping at are legitimate. We want to know that our yoga instructor is certified, or the organic food store that we're purchasing a product from is actually organic or gluten-free or whatever it might be. But we want to know that everyone that we're dealing with nowadays is legitimate and credible and trustworthy. And you can find that information out by visiting our website. It's free to the public 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, like any wonderful website is, the beauty of the internet. But you can also call and speak to one of our information specialists. And on the handout that we left on the table outside, we have our website address, our email, and our phone number. And beyond any of the 5 million businesses that you can research and review on bbb.org, we have information on charity organizations, what sorts of questions to ask if you're thinking of donating, and links to external sites to give you some more credible, reliable information. And then everything that Robin and I are about to get into in regards to scams and fraud and some of the major identity theft tactics that are going on right now, you can also find on our website. We have a scam tracker if you think that maybe you were a victim or a scam, or even if you just received an email or a phone call or something, and you would like to report it, you can visit our scam tracker portion of our website and report that as well. And we share all of our information with the Federal Trade Commission and make sure that we're passing off the information over to the appropriate people so that we can hopefully crack down on some of these scams and fraudsters that are out there. And we're happy to take any questions on either of our organizations as we go along, but I'll let Robin take it from here and talk about her organization.
Yes, thank you so much for having us, and I appreciate you all taking the time. So I'm from the Massachusetts Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation, and we are a state agency located in downtown Boston. We have 5 agencies underneath us: the Division of Banks, Insurance, Professional Licensure, Standards, and the Department of Telecommunications and Cable. So we have a lot kind of going on in our office. We have a helpline that's run Monday through Friday from 9 to 4:30, and we have specialists that can answer questions for consumers. You actually do get a human being. It's not press 1, press 4, and now you're back to 0 again. But we handle questions that come in from any consumer. It could be regarding a situation with your bank or insurance. You want to check if someone that you're going to be employing is actually licensed in the state to actually work with us. You can call us, or you can go online. We have a great website that is chock full of information. We also put out a lot of blog posts about different consumer issues that we hear about. We also have a scam log, unfortunately, because, well, we all hear about the scams. And we put out, our Facebook page actually puts out a lot of information on a daily basis, and we have a Twitter account. So we have lots of information that's free to consumers of Massachusetts. And I don't think a lot of people know that we're out there. So part of my job is really to get out into the communities and say, hey, we're here. If you have something to complain about, you're concerned about, you want to hire a contractor in Massachusetts, are they licensed? Are they registered? You can call and ask, and we can help you deal with that. I'm sorry. It's www.mass.gov/consumer. And I do have all this information on the handouts that are out front. And our helpline is 617-973-8787. So we're there to help consumers answer questions, field information to you. So thank you so much for being here.
Are there any questions on either the Better Business Bureau or the Office of Consumer Affairs? Anything in particular? Please. That's a wonderful question. So we have 5 million businesses on bbb.org, and those are all businesses that have registered through our website. It's free for any business that wants to register themselves. It essentially generates a profile for them, so we have 5 million business profiles. 400,000 of those 5 million businesses took a next step. They applied for accreditation status. That meant that they had to give over to us all of their licenses, all of their certifications, if it's the industry that would require them to have such. And they have to prove to us that they have a really great business to consumer track record, that they don't have any complaints filed against them, or if they do have complaints filed against them, they handled those issues, and then they will continue to do so after they become accredited. If you're an accredited business, you're required to respond to issues that consumers have or complaints that have been filed within 30 days. So the difference is that those businesses just happen to take that next step. And beyond whether or not they're accredited or non-accredited, they'll also have a letter grade associated with the business as well. So every business, all 5 million businesses have a letter grade A through F, and we tell people, look, you could potentially find a non-accredited business that has an A+ rating, but you'll never find an accredited business that has an F rating. So just because they're not an accredited business doesn't mean that they're credible or reliable. It just means that they just didn't take that next step, or we don't have their licenses or certifications on file, or they haven't been forthcoming with that information. And we always tell people too, cross-reference with the Office of Consumer Affairs, because any business that should be licensed or certified, they have on file. So you can start with us and then go to the Office of Consumer Affairs, or vice versa. Start with Office of Consumer Affairs, double check with us. It's just about knowing that that information is out there. And if there's a business that you're curious about that you can't find any information on, or we don't happen to have any information on our website, contact us anyway, and we'll see what we can find through our contacts with the Office of Consumer Affairs, the Attorney General's office, or the Federal Trade Commission, and things like that. But we just want people to know that the resources are out there and that all of this information should be free. You shouldn't have to pay to find out if there's a good business out there. Mhm. That's another great question. So their letter grade is based on an algorithm associated with the 8 standards of trust that they are required to adhere to. And that goes along the lines of having their licenses and certifications, their track record, safeguarding the personal information of those clients that they may have. We make sure that they have the proper precautions set in place, firewalls if they use computer systems that collect data from personal data from their clients. And how long they've been in business actually is a big one. We want to make sure that businesses aren't just, saying, oh, I'm a new business and I should have an A rating because of it. They have to be established for at least 6 months for us to see a track record. And I don't think that this has changed recently, but I believe they cannot receive an A+ rating unless they've been established as a business for at least 6 years. So we want to know that there's that track record and that it's not just, I'm just new and I haven't really had many clients, so of course I don't have any complaints. It has to be that they have been established and conducting themselves professionally and ethically, and then, they're able to bump up a little to that A+. Sure. Always following up. We have an investigator that works within our office. We're a large enough office located in Marlborough, Mass, that we're able to allot an in-house investigator, which is fantastic, and they're just constantly checking in with the businesses and making sure that they're staying up to date with those licenses, and also, again, with the Office of Consumer Affairs, where they would have to be putting their information on file. But we're always staying up to date, and we rely on consumers too. And so we want consumers to say, look, I worked with this business and they were accredited or they weren't accredited, and this is my experience with them. Positive, negative, whatever it might be. Even if you don't have to file a formal complaint against a business, you haven't had a major issue, you can contact us and say, look, I ordered a washing machine, they delivered the washing machine, but I didn't really like the salesperson, or I didn't really like the customer service individual that delivered the washing machine. So that's something that we really want consumers to know. Contact us and give us as much information as you can on the experiences that you've had, so that we can then go and put that information on their business profile. And any complaint that's filed against a business formally through BBB gets displayed on that business's business profile, and it stays there for 3 years. And that goes for businesses that even have responded to the complaints as well. It just gets displayed, and then that way, if they do respond, which we hope they will, the consumers can see what sort of dialogue went on back and forth between the two parties and how it was resolved, if it was. Mm-hmm. No, we would never do that. And you'll see if you look, all important information is sort of crossed out. But we need to know the consumers' names, that when we reach out to the business, we can say such and such a date, and you sign the contract, and this, that, and the other. But it would never be displayed. We would never say, Nancy Smith and 1 Main Street in Falmouth, Mass. Nothing like that. It's always crossed out, and including phone numbers and email addresses. Mm-hmm. We should, yes, absolutely. And if for some reason we just don't have it, because there's so many businesses, and if you're on that business profile and you don't see it, contact us and we'll be able to tell you what that is. And then again, cross-reference with the Massachusetts Office of Consumer Affairs, just to be certain. Because there are businesses out there that I walk into or drive by and I see a BBB logo and I assume that they're accredited, and then I see, oh, they're not accredited anymore. And it used to kind of make me think, well, why do you have that up? You shouldn't have that up. And then I just realized, well, they know how important it is to be accredited. They know what that BBB symbol means to consumers, and so they still have to take it down, but I don't get as heated about it when I see it. Any other questions before we jump into the scams? I'll let Robin start. We tend to start with the phone scams, and I'm going to let you take it away.
Sure. So phone scams, unfortunately, are the most frustrating to deal with. You're not alone. I get them all the time. I get them at work. I get them on my cell phone. I get them at home. It's just frustrating because unfortunately we never know who really is 100% calling us. We do have caller ID, but unfortunately you can't really rely on caller ID anymore because some of our scammers do have scramblers, and they can make it look like the Falmouth Police Department's calling you, a Department of Telecommunications is calling you, your Visa is calling you. So it's really tough to, quite honestly, really know who is calling. Amy and I always suggest if you do answer the phone and someone does say they're calling from your bank or your credit card company or the IRS, it's pretty tough to say, should you believe them, should you not believe them? Maybe this sounds a little sketchy, but I don't believe them 100%. If they say that's calling from my Visa, I'll take down their information and I'll say, thank you so much, I'll give you a call back. Because some of these scammers, they will regurgitate a lot of information about you because it's information that can be found online. Oh, Nancy Smith, do you still live at 151 Main Street in Falmouth, Massachusetts? Well, it's online, unfortunately. And can you still verify that your great-grandmother grew up in Northern Ireland in this little nicky town? Sure, they can find that online as well. So a lot of times when they call, they are putting that information out to make you feel comfortable, like, oh, they must be my bank calling to say that there is something wrong with, there's a discrepancy with my account and they just want to handle it quickly and they're going to send me a new card. Can you just update and verify your social security number for me? So if you get that call and you haven't actually done the reaching out first, take their information, and if they're saying they are saying that they are from your Visa, pull out your Visa and call the 800 number on the back of your Visa. That's a number you know specifically is associated, or pull out one of your receipts and say, all right, let's call them. Maybe it is them, maybe it's not them, but at least if you're actually calling the correct phone number, you can identify yourself and say, did you just call me? Or I got this strange email, but I just want to, is there something wrong with my account? At least at that point, you know you have reached out to the right company. Did you have a question? You can. It's depends on what you want to do. A lot of times I will actually tell the Visa person that I talk to or my bank, hey, they're calling you and here's the number that they said they're calling from, just to give them the information. I also actually report it to the Federal Trade Commission all the time. And then at least if you've done the reaching out, they're not going to scam you. It's really, you're really talking to your bank or your Visa and they'll say one of two things. You know what, we didn't call you, but thanks so much. Can you just give us some of the information who they said they were calling from and a phone number? Or they'll say, yes, actually we were trying to get a hold of you. There are some issues with your account. We'd like to get them up to date. And then you can actually go forth and figure out those issues because you've actually called Visa. It is a little tricky with the IRS. I know that I think next year they're going to start making phone calls, but from my understanding, it's only if you have actually not you filed your taxes that year. And I believe they still have to actually send you at least 2 forms of letters before they actually call you. I think the important thing to know is any entity who is going to be calling you or they're saying that they're from the IRS or the federal government or the governor's office, they're not going to threaten you. They're not going to swear at you. They're not going to tell you that the local police department, or in my case, they said that the National Guard was going to come after me. But they do. They start off really super duper nice. We just want to let you know that we noticed that you didn't file taxes last year and you owe over $20,000. And we'd like to, just deal with that right now. Could you actually give me your Visa and we can get that going? And I thought to myself, I don't think I made enough money to owe $20,000. But then as soon as I did that, they realized, okay, well, now we got to get mean. So then they started to threaten me and to swear at me. And that's when they did say, the National Guard is coming after you. And I said, that's terrible, but I don't think the National Guard's coming. They don't work for you. But it's just tough with the phone scams. A lot of our scammers also are changing their tactics and using robocalls. If you get a robocall, a lot of times you can notice there's a 10-second to 20-second delay, and there's no one there. And that computer system is waiting for you to keep saying, hello, hello, who's there, what's going on, because they're waiting for the voice If you notice that delay, simply hang up. A lot of people say, oh, I'll press 9 to be unsubscribed from their list. You will get unsubscribed from their list, but you're going to be put on somebody else's list. If you know it's a robocall, just simply hang up. You can also go to nomorobo.com. It's just a simple website, and you can put your landline on for free. Cell phones are, I think, $1.99 or $2, but it will slowly cut down on the robocalls that come through. I get a lot of robocalls, and I'm starting to get them at work, which is frustrating. But as soon as I know it's not the correct person, I immediately hang up. One of the bigger scams that keeps circulating is the "Can you hear me?" scam. I don't know if it's down here. Maybe, oh, it is. Oh, sure. So it's just a scammer who's trying to ask you a few questions, and usually the answer is always going to get you to say yes. Can you hear me? Oh, and they're fumbling with their headset or something. The best thing to do is don't answer, just simply hang up. They have said that they're basically recording your voice saying yes, and unfortunately, as of yet, they're not really 100% sure how they're going to use that against you. But if you get the call, simply hang up. We do meet a lot of people, and because we talk about fraud, unfortunately, so much, who think it's kind of fun to scam the scammer when you know you've got some weirdo on the phone. I highly suggest not kind of keeping them on the line, because unfortunately you never know if you're going to get that one bad apple. We talked to a senior up in the North Shore who thought it'd be fun to scam the scammer, and she kept him online for 45 minutes. And he got really upset, so he called her all weekend, 24 hours a day. And she got so paranoid and completely freaked out that by Monday she changed her phone number. So people usually, when we suggest that you should be changing your password every couple of months, every month, that's when I get the death stare. Can you imagine having to change your phone number, your landline that you probably had for a million years, or at least your cell phone? Now you've got to call everybody. So if you know you've got a scammer, it's just simply hang up. That's the best thing you can do, because the more times you hang up, they're going to slowly stop. They're going to start taking you off of their list. It will take some time, but don't egg them on. You can be asking for a little bit of trouble. Yes. Yep. Right. Just hang up.
It almost doesn't even sound like a robocall. It almost doesn't even sound like a recording. It sounds very natural. I had the same one, the headset one. Oh, I'm just fixing my headset. I thought it was Minnie Mouse for a second. She sounded like very perky and like very sweet. I didn't really hear that 5-second delay. I mean, I did, only because then I started to hear the fumbling of the headset.
Sure.
Right,
It's
exactly.
a computer system churning out phone numbers. That's all it is. And oh, let's ping you. And now you're answering the phone. And that's all it is. Did you have a question? Oh.
It is possible. It could potentially just be a coincidence, but I'm not sure that it is. Yeah, it's
No.
very possible that they're aware,
Yeah.
because they know that someone's there. They have their phone in front of them. They're more likely to answer. Someone was using that line, which is very, very big. And I can get into that, but I want to make sure we get to your question.
Yep. Sure.
Perfect.
Great. I do that too. Yep.
Sure.
Sure.
Right. Well, that's you actually said one of the basic tips that we really recommend, which is to just let your phone ring and let your answering machine pick it up. Because if it's a scammer, they're not going to leave you a message. Very rarely will they leave you a message. If they're smart, we use that term loosely, they will not leave you a message. They don't have a number to leave you. They don't want to be traced and tracked. So they're not going to leave you anything for you to be able to report them or contact them again. Let it go. If it's someone that needs you, they'll leave you a message. And if they don't, they'll try again in a few hours and leave a message then. But what happens when we answer the phone once is that we alert the person on the other end that it's an active working line that they called. It wasn't some automated machine somewhere, and that if we answer today at 1 o'clock, then maybe tomorrow at 1 o'clock we'll answer too. We'll have our phone on us then, or maybe next week at 1. And not only did they then use it to continue to call us day in and day out, but then they sell that information to more and more and more scam artists. And that's why we're inundated. And the phone scams are just the most annoying because there's absolutely no way to get them to stop. And as technology keeps growing and advancing and evolving, the scammers are just going to keep calling us more and more and more because it's easy for them to just press a button and have it call 10,000 people in one day. Mm-hmm. You can have your phone on silent to have it roll over to message. I think, can you do that with landlines?
So with landlines, if you put your phone number on No Mo Robo, it will the system, the No Mo Robo, sorry, it's a weird word to say, will recognize that it's a robocall coming in. In my experience, I think it rings once and it immediately goes away. It starts to block it.
And that is for the robocalls. And that's actually the only thing that can not only prevent legitimate telemarketers from being able to get through, but also the scammers. Anyone that's using that automated computer system, it will stop both of them, which is amazing because there's really no other way to get them to stop. But in terms of having it so that your phone doesn't ring, I think you could turn your ringer off, but then you'll miss, of course, every other call.
I think some cell phone companies have systems built into their cell phones.
Yeah.
You might want to check with your carrier as well, if they have blocking capabilities.
Yeah.
Sure. I would try No Mo Robo. I've heard very, very good things about it.
And it's free
And it's
for
free.
landline, so might as well try it with that. And then if it seems to be working, then maybe move over and do the $1.99 for the cell phone if it starts to work. But it should. It's a month.
Yes, I think it's per
It's
month.
a month. I believe there's a deal. I went to the website. It's $19.99 for the year, so you get 2 months free. And of course, we can't advocate one way or another for it, but
if
it's
it
been
works,
working
it
so
works.
far. So it could be worth a try at least. And that's really like step number 1 is just trying not to answer and letting it go to your voicemail system, especially because, as Robin said, these scrambling devices are so easy for us to look at our phone and it looks like it's coming from, the local police, or it looks like it's even just coming from Falmouth. And they do that because they know that we're less likely to answer a number that says it's coming from Jamaica or Dubai or something. And even if it says California or Utah or Falmouth, we're more likely to answer because we're going to say, I do not recognize that number 100%. But it's Falmouth, it's got to be someone I know. And then we're going to answer. Or we look at the caller ID and it has our own phone number down there. That's happened a lot. And I think they do that, the scam artists do that, because we're going to look down and say, well, that's weird, how did that happen? And then out of sheer curiosity, we're going to answer the phone because of it. And then it just starts that cycle of us alerting the person on the other end that it's a real number, we're a real person. And then we're inundated. And we try to tell people too, you can't feel bad that you're getting these phone calls. We promise no one is being targeted specifically. It's just that there's like 1,000 people on Monday that are going to get the same phone call from the same person. And on Monday, it's going to be that they're pretending to be from Medicare. And on Tuesday, they're going to offer you a better interest rate on your credit card. And on Wednesday, they're going to say they're from a charity. And and every day, they're just going to try something else. And law of averages says if they call 1,000 people in one day and they say that they're going to offer someone a better interest rate on their credit card, then some of those 1,000 people are going to say, oh, okay, that sounds good, and tell me a little bit more. But the second biggest piece of advice that we can offer is exactly what Robin was saying. Hang up the phone and find the number that you know is associated with the actual business. Hanging up, it's the best thing. Someone said it before. Why not just hang up? That's exactly what we should do. Hang up, hear who it is that they're calling on behalf of, just to be sure, call the number that you know is really associated. And sometimes that just means going over to your wallet and taking out your debit card or taking out your credit card and looking at the 1-800 number on the back of the card and maybe being on hold for 15 minutes before you can speak to a representative, but saying something as simple as, I just received a phone call from someone from Visa saying that I had an issue. And it's good because if there is an issue, you can handle it then, as you've been calling them, or, like Robin said, you're alerting them that if it was a scammer, if they say, no, that wasn't us, you don't have an issue, you're not only giving yourself peace of mind that you didn't give away any information, but you're alerting that business that there's someone out there making calls on behalf of them or saying that they're from a representative from that particular business. And then they can go and it starts the cycle. They'll be on the 5 o'clock news and they'll say, don't answer. There's a scam going on, an email phishing scam going on right now, and you know, it's all over. I'm getting it. My friends are emailing it to me. Did you hear about this? Or my dad, did you hear about this? And getting it through work, and that's just how it works. The more information that they can have, the better. Even if the number is scrambled, and most of the time it's probably going to be a scrambled number on your caller ID screen, write it down anyway. Write it down anyway and report it. And also we can report it to the Do Not Call registry as well, because I'm sure we're all registered with the Do Not Call registry, and I'm sure we're all still getting phone calls, and we're wondering why. And the reason is because most of the calls that are coming in, this is the tricky aspect of the scams now, the phone calls, most of them are not from legitimate businesses or organizations. They're from scam artists impersonating legitimate businesses. It's much easier for them to say, I'm calling on behalf of Bank of America, and we have an issue with your card, can we handle it? Than for them to call and say, you want a free cruise, and say something so crazy and outlandish. So they're piggybacking off of our real banks and credit card companies calling and monitoring our accounts, and because of that, I just lost my train of thought. I don't actually know where I was going with that. But because of that, it's important for us to write it down and report it, to the Do Not Call registry, because in the off chance, Do Not Call registry, and we have their website on the handout, and I think their phone number as well. Because if we call them and we say, look, we're on your list, and I'm still getting phone calls from this particular number, they're going to say, you know what, that number is actually associated with the business, and they're supposed to be adhering to our list, and then they can reach out to the business. But they have to hear from us if those phone calls are coming in.
Mm-hmm.
It's all automated.
Another way to try to report them is go to FTC, ftc.gov, Federal Trade Commission, ftc.gov. Their reporting is super easy. You still do have to fill information out, but it's in my opinion, it's very quick. I think you can call them as well. I just prefer to go online because it takes you 3 seconds and boom, boom.
Yeah.
So you have two options.
Yeah, and take the time to do it. Take the time to report it, because the more of us that report it, the more likely it is that we can get it to stop. Did you have a question over in the? I thought I saw your hand up.
Does
before.
somebody else? Oh yeah,
Sure.
sure. I believe not, but don't quote me. I was told by somebody who actually put their name on it. I use Verizon, so I can't do it. That it did not. So, but I would check it yourself.
It shouldn't, because someone had mentioned the reverse 911
yeah.
calls, that it doesn't stop those, like that towns have set in place.
So, but do check with that, because I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah.
I live in the South Shore. No. So, but it might be just per area. So don't quote me. It might be different down here. I live in Milton, so I don't know if it's just Milton specifically or if it's Verizon altogether.
We had a few people on the North Shore, and they had Verizon. They said they tried it, and unfortunately, just at this moment, they don't have it. That it could be set in place. But that doesn't mean that in a few months it might not change. Or if enough people call them and say, I want to be on No More Robo, can I do it?
Well, they do have an option. So if you whatever phone service carrier you use and they're not using it, they'll say, would you like to click here and let your carrier know that you'd like to be on No More Robo? Because so the more times the rest of us who can't get on it report that, then I would assume that the company with the Verizon or whomever, I'm not knocking Verizon, but I'm just saying whatever company it is, if they get enough of these emails saying, hey, this person wants to get on it, this person does, they might change their policies.
I think the biggest thing when it comes to the phones is, as probably crazy as this sounds, 100% of the phone calls that come in for me, unless it's my mother or my husband, who are the only two people that call me, I just hang up the phone, and I can hear who it is first if they want to tell me who it is that they represent or what charity they're calling on behalf of, or I can choose not to and I can hang up right away. But I hang up the phone and then I just find that number. And it's possible that no one ever has to fall for a phone scam, and all we have to do is just hang up the phone and call the business back or call the charity back at our leisure, at our leisure too. We don't have to do things right away, and the scam artists get away with what they get away with because they don't think we're going to take the time to hang up the phone and go find the right number, because who wants to take an extra 5 minutes to have to go figure it out, find the number, call them back, hopefully get to speak to a person. We don't want to take that time, but that's just really all we need to do nowadays in order to best protect ourselves. And in regards to the phone scams, at least. And the phone scams are the most annoying, but they're certainly not the most dangerous. The computer internet scams are so dangerous. And they're dangerous because, at least with the phone scams, you might hang up the phone and 3 hours later just kind of be, sitting around thinking, oh, wait a second, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or maybe I shouldn't have given that information away. We're aware of the dialogue that we've had with another person, as opposed to the computers where we click on links and websites and emails and tabs and all this, and we have no way of knowing if we've clicked on something that we shouldn't have, because most of the viruses and malware that is associated with these links and with the internet scams, they just function so that if we click on them, our computers function normally, and we have no idea that we've clicked on something. Sure, the new Google scam is an email that you receive, and it's from someone that you don't know, so that would be red flag number one, and it says, oh, I just sent you this file, just click on it, or I sent you the file that you needed, and it's a Google specific scam too, and I think it might even be a Google Drive specific scam. It should. It looks like it's coming from a person, but then it says Google in like the subject line. I sent you this Google thing, or I sent you this Drive. But like anything, if there's an email address that's coming in and you don't recognize it, that would be red flag number one. But even if it's an email that looks like it's coming from someone that you know, or if you're a Comcast subscriber, or Bank of America, whatever it might be, really, really, really look at the email address before you open the email itself. And we can do that, of course, just by looking, but also hover your mouse over the email address, and there should be a little drop down, and the drop down should look exactly like the email looks. So the email address looks. It shouldn't say, comcast.net/edu.uk.5732, whatever it is. It should say comcast.net, and the O should be an O and not a zero. We really have to look at that email address. Make sure it's legitimate. And then if we're opening the email, it's not necessarily the email itself that is dangerous when it comes to these phishing scams. It is the link that is embedded within the email. And the email scams function similarly to the phone scams in the sense that they look like they're coming from legitimate businesses. They look like they're coming from Verizon or Comcast or Bank of America, UPS, FedEx. The Better Business Bureau is one that they tend to spoof and send an email. It looks like it's coming from our organization. And it looks very official. And if you maybe regularly receive emails from Comcast and you open this email and it has the header and the logo and the format, it doesn't even really throw us off. We just assume it's another email that we're getting from whoever it is that we're associated with. But the link is what's dangerous. And the link is dangerous because even if we have all of the proper precautions set in place in regards to strong firewalls and antivirus software, anti-identity theft software, the minute we click on these links or pop-ups that can pop up that have links in them, it's as if we're opening up the doors and saying, come on in and take everything you want, and it happens like that. Every tiny bit of information that you can imagine is on your computer system is sent over to the hacker's computer. And it's dangerous because we click on the link and nothing happens. We don't see anything happen. There's no flashing lights that go off that say, you clicked on something you shouldn't have, call your bank right away. Our computers function normally. And I had a gentleman who told me years ago at a program, they had a pop-up come up and it looked like it was from Microsoft, and he was a Microsoft user, and it had the header, the logo and the colors, and it said, we detected a virus, click on this link and we'll scan your computer. And he did, and nothing happened, his computer just kept functioning, But 2 hours later, he had a phone call from his credit card company asking him if he made a $20,000 purchase over in California. And he got lucky, believe it or not, because whoever got a hold of his information tried to use his credit card, and they tried to do something so outlandish with it, and they tried to do something right away. The scam artists don't usually do this. When they get a hold of our information, especially when they get a hold of it via the computer, they will hold on to it for a while because they know we're not really thinking about it, because we don't know that anything has just been taken. They'll sit on it for a few months, and then when they go to use it, they'll hopefully try to use our debit card information, because the money is immediately extracted for us. It's harder for us to get that money back. And they'll make small purchases here and there. It's worth it for them to scam 5,000 people out of $1 as opposed to one person out of $5,000. So they're going to scam as many people as possible for a small amount of money, because it's going to bypass the bank, bypass the credit card companies. They're not going to notice anything unusual. What's unusual about $1, $2, $3, $5? And then even when we look at our statements or our bills, we aren't very likely to notice something so small if we share an account with someone or share a card. And then if we do notice something, even if it's small, we're less likely to act upon it, as opposed to, say, a $500 charge popping up on our statement or something. If we see that, we're going to say, whoa, and then try to act upon it as quick as possible.
What do you think paying your bills online? I don't do it because I'm always afraid that, that information
Yeah, there's a positive and a negative to paying online versus writing out a check and putting it in your mailbox. You want to take that one?
Sure. So if you're going to use online banking and paying bills, I would just make sure that you're using your own secure Wi-Fi Wi-Fi at your house, because you're the only one that
don't do it from public Wi-Fi.
No. I never use public Wi-Fi to be online shopping, to check your accounts, because you could be at, say, let's just say, any coffee shop, and they'll say, oh, we'll give you the password to use our Wi-Fi. Okay, well, it's a little bit safer, but the same password is given to everybody who's sitting there. And the same thing, and I'm not knocking libraries, but the same thing with libraries or a council on aging, everybody has the same password. So you don't know, quite honestly, who's sitting in the room next to you. There might be a nut who's going, ooh, she's going online and checking her B of A accounts. Let's see what she's doing. Do it at home. Everybody should just do it at home. You just never know who's using the same Wi-Fi in the same building. Although a lot of people do still like to use checks and write a check to say, pay your Visa bill. If you're going to do that, you should make sure that when you are putting that bill in the mail, it has to go into a locked mailbox or the actual blue mailbox, because people steal mail. Now, if I go into, okay, if you give it to her specifically, okay, fine. But a lot of people still leave it in the mailbox with a little red flag up. Well, now you're telling the entire world that there might be something in there. And if they do get that information, what they can do is, oh, now they've got your Visa information. They're going to turn the piece of paper over and change the address. So it's going to go to somebody else next month, and you're not going to see the bill. But more importantly, they have your check, which has your name, your address, your signature, sometimes your phone number, your account number, and your routing number for your bank. So if you're not giving it to the post person or in a locked mailbox or go to the actual post office, you're asking for trouble. It's the same thing during tax season. If you're getting all of your tax information that comes in sort of sporadically for a couple of weeks, here all of your information. Those are coming in usually big envelopes. Usually says here information from whatever, anything that you're going to be using for your taxes. It's just got to be very careful. So when that information starts to come in, make sure you're right there to grab it and just take it out of the mailbox. I know we sort of sound a little paranoid, but you put all this information out there. I mean, when I started working for the state, I had to fill out my paperwork. It was like 3 inches thick, and there were at least 10 different places where I had to put my social security number. Obviously, for the HR department, I totally understand that, but I knew it was going to be walked from my office to the HR office, which was not in our building, and I thought, what if that person is having a terrible day? She now has my full HR packet, and it says it's going to the HR department. So I didn't fill it out. I filled everything out, but I only gave the last 4 digits of my social security number. I said, please call me. And I'm sure everybody in the HR department was a little frustrated, but I was like, I don't know, it wasn't going FedEx, and it made me nervous because it had so much of everything, all of my information right there, and I had to have next of kin and their social security number and all of this, which I do understand, obviously, the HR department needs, but it made me a little uncomfortable. And they called, they're like, hi, we'd like the rest of your number. I said, fine. But it's just, you have to be very, very careful what kind of information you're putting out there. Did you have a question? Because they're going to run a credit check. They got to have to make sure that you're going to pay your bills. There's a few instances where you're going to have to give your full credit, social security number, like opening a bank account, utilities, things like that, doctor's offices. They are going to run a credit check. If you're going to go and rent an apartment, they need to run your credit. You can push back once you've opened it and say, okay, now that you've checked my credit, can we have a few more questions that you can ask me to verify who it is instead of me physically on the phone saying it's so-and-so and here's my full social security number to say that's me. But they do have to do that, unfortunately.
I always just assess that. You know, if there are some times where we're going to have to give that information. So if I know that, then when there are other moments where it's not necessarily necessary for us to go about our daily business, then I really take a step back and say, do I need this? Do I need this 5% back every 6 months if I do this, that, and the other? It's not worth it for me to sign up for stuff like that or put my name on that or even just give my email address sometimes. I don't want to know. It's not that I don't trust who I'm giving it to or the business. It's that I don't know where else it's going to end up eventually. And I don't want to find out. So when it comes to things like, you know, signing up for, you know, getting a mortgage or a loan or things like that, I know that I'm going to have to give it, but that just means I'm going to be extra cautious about what company I'm using and, you know, who it is that I'm giving that information to and how, if I'm in a secure setting, talking over the phone in my own home and not in public or something like that. There were
Did you
two
have a
questions
question?
over here?
Oh, sure.
Sure, you can go first. Ladies first.
I was a little uncomfortable when I went on Medicare, got my Medicare card, that my social security is that number, because I tend to carry those all the time.
Can I answer that? Next year, it's supposed to change. From what I have heard, don't quote me specifically, I have heard that next year they're rolling out for everybody new numbers. So, regarding your Medicare, if you're not going to the doctor's office, like specifically, you might not want to carry that card with you because it still has your social security number. You could carry a photocopy of it just in case of emergency and block out some of the numbers. But if you know, like tomorrow I'm going to be seeing the doctor at 3:30, then obviously bring it with you. It's just, you just never know.
And then, just yesterday, I happened, when I go out walking, I take my phone, and because the different areas pick up, they try to pick up Wi-Fi, I usually turn it off. So when I noticed that, and I was in my house, that it was not my home network, but it was Xfinity, which is, and with a security recommendation. But I would never think to check in my house that I'm on an unsecured network. So
That it picked it up, you mean naturally?
it's
It found
sure.
it as like the closest thing as opposed to like your own
I'm
Wi-Fi?
in my house,
Yeah.
I have Xfinity, but I
I've-
also have a home.
Sure, I've had that a few times. I've had it happen to me in my house too, but every once in a while I do check before. If I'm going to do online banking, I will make sure I'm on my specific. I'm not on. I don't know technically why it's only picking up the neighbor.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do know that in my kitchen, for some bizarre reason, the internet is just terrible. The Wi-Fi, the signal is terrible, so I always go into like the living room, but because I do in that one room pick up everybody else in the whole neighborhood, but I can't use their Wi-Fi because it asks for a password. And I'm that kind of weird nut in my neighborhood now who alerts everybody that they don't have a password. I am. I mean, I'm that weird person. I have to take my dog out usually around 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. So I will walk around with my cell phone trying to see if I can get into people's Wi-Fi. And then I will call I'd call my neighbor. I said, hey, I was walking last night and I noticed that you don't have a password for your Wi-Fi. And she's like, what are you talking about? I have a password. I'm like, no, you don't. So she used the Geek Squad, and they came in and changed it all. She had a password. I don't do it regularly, but I thought that was very odd. Like my phone just
More
kept
research.
kept getting everybody's information. I was like, oh, that's not good. But then I realized not everybody has they're not password protected. They got their Wi-Fi, they got their internet, but they didn't do that one step to get secure. So no, I don't walk around my town every night looking for everybody. But I just noticed that one thing. And I thought people need to take that extra one little step and say, just put a password on it. Did you have a question? Sure. It's right there.
So, do you take the original and block out some numbers?
No. So if you have your original Medicare card, make a photocopy of that and block out the part of the numbers and carry that with you if you feel the need to carry that on a daily basis. If there's obviously an emergency and you've been in an accident, at least someone in the hospital will know you have Medicare, so they could call your next of kin and say, hey, can you bring the full Medicare number into the hospital, or you can probably spout off your Social Security number. I don't think, I talk to a lot of high school kids and they carry their Social Security number with them, or they put it in their cell phone and their cell phones aren't locked, or they don't have any locks. So I just don't think people should be carrying that information around at all. Because you just never know. What if someone steals your wallet? What if you lose your wallet? What if something falls? I mean, there's so many different scenarios that could happen. And once someone has your information, they're going to go try to use it, unfortunately.
Is there any portion of your social security number that you should block out?
I do the first 5 numbers.
First five?
I mean, I don't think it's going to be that important, but I would not carry the full number with you. Yes. Oh. Yes, absolutely.
Because it's a nuisance, it's that much better. It should be a nuisance, because if it's a nuisance for you, then it's going to be a nuisance for everyone else that gets a hold of it if they do. Yeah.
Yes. Sure. Great. Oh, perfect. Yep. Sure. Great. Mm-hmm. So you bring up another thing. If you ever verbally have to say your Social Security number to, like at the doctor's office or to the utility office, if you're on the phone and have to verify it, make sure there's no one around you. I know I sound paranoid, but make sure there are lurkers who will hang out in doctor's offices waiting for you to go, oh, with my cell phone number and my Social Security number is and they're waiting for you to do that. Or write it down and pass it to the person and either watch him or her shred it immediately or take it back. Because there are people who now hang out in doctor's offices just waiting for you to come in to see what more information they can get from you. But that also leads to getting rid of prescription medication bottles. If you cannot get the label off, try soaking it in water, or someone told us I'm using a hairdryer. That seems weird, but whatever works. If you can't get that label off, you should buy a black security marker and blacken out all of your information before you put that in the recycling bin. And before you put it in, if you're getting rid of old medication, you're going to drop it off. So I know some local police departments will do that. Make sure all of your personal information is off of that. I can't verify that all police departments are going to take that off. And I'm not knocking the police department, I'm just saying ask them first if they are doing that. Because a lot of people just throw it in the recycling bin and they don't think about it. And then all of a sudden you get that remittance in the mail a couple of weeks later said, this is not a bill, it's from your medical, and they're verifying all the things that you've had done. Well, what if someone grabbed your information and had a broken arm and used your insurance? It happens. And this also goes with shredding. Everybody should shred any information that's personal information. Nothing can go in the trash. Nothing at all. Because people steal trash. They dumpster dive, they steal your trash, they know they know that your neighborhood is trash pickup is Wednesday morning around 10ish, and everybody puts it out Tuesday night, because that's what they do. And then they'll go through and they'll steal your trash. So any information, if you get a lot of catalogs, a lot of times at the catalog in the very back will have your name, address, and an account number. And the same thing in the middle with that tear-out sheet that you can order order things from the catalog. Shred that little piece of information. All of any information that you have, that's personal information, your name, address, account information, old bank information, part of your social security number, it needs to be shredded. And it can't be the shredding machine that's just the spaghetti. It has to be the crosscut. If you don't want to do that, I know that AARP is having 10 shred fests. They just had one. I think they had one in Plymouth last week. You can also do a Google search, Shredfest, Massachusetts, Shredfest, Falmouth, 2017, and see who is going to be sponsoring a Shredfest. It is the safest way to get rid of your information. I can't suggest it enough. When my dad passed away, my mom had tons of boxes of information. She's like, oh, let's have a bonfire. I said, no, I don't want to meet the fire department, but we're not having a bonfire. It's also not great for the environment. And we found a shred fest, and it wasn't very far from us. It was on a Saturday, and literally in 3 minutes we got rid of everything. And it was a reputable company. I looked them up, and they had a video camera inside their big machine. You could see it just getting annihilated. But we really need to shred all of that information. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can also, if you get a lot of applications for credit cards or insurance policies, you can go to Opt-out Pre-Screen. It's a website. It's on here too. That you can get your name taken off of that. And you bring up a good point. If you get a lot of advertisements for, hey, we'll give you a new Discover card, a new Visa, don't recycle that, because if I'm a scammer, I'll go into your recycling bin and go, oh, look, here's a Visa offer and here's a Discover card. And I'll open up those cards and you don't know what's happening, and then you'll start getting the bills. So if you get those, shred those, absolutely.
It's unfortunate too, because we can't control who's going to dumpster dive, but we can control what they find in our dumpster. So that's key. We can be in control of something, which is nice.
Did you guys have a question?
When we go this way.
Sure. Sure.
So, as far as that password, is the thumbprint good enough?
Yes and no. I know that I have read some articles that there are people who are already figuring out how to copy that, but I think we're still a little further away. I think I think down here you're probably pretty safe to do the thumbprint. There are articles out there people are figuring that out. But as long as you at least have that. So, I mean, I meet so many high school kids who have nothing, and it just freaks me out. Oh, sorry.
Something to be shredded, the shred test. Do you actually see them shredding your stuff, or you're just leaving in a pile, whatever you?
No, I watch it. I actually was in Plymouth with AARP last week, and everybody who came to the Shred Fest literally watched them put them they had 2 big dumpster bins, and they sat there and watched as the bin went in, and then they had a video camera and they could watch it all get just completely shredded. I think if you're going to go to Shred Fest and they're saying, oh, it's Shred Massachusetts, whatever the company is, do a little quick look up and see if it is a reputable company. My guess is if it's going to be sponsored by a law firm or bank, I would assume that law firm is going to make sure they're using a reputable company.
I was just gonna say, the old credit cards, I also think, are there gonna be other spots or whatever, and even on trash, and
Sure.
one thing versus the time of having
I think you'll be safe that way as well.
another one, so that even if we do that, we don't have to spend a couple of months in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was there? Yep.
Shredded, because it has a barcode on it.
Yep. Hey, barcodes. It does. It means something to somebody. Yes.
Even just the last.
Credit cards you don't use, what do you do with them?
Are you keeping them open for a specific reason, or?
Well, I had heard that if you close them, those credit cards.
It depends. It depends on
Yeah.
how many credit cards you have open. If you have 10 or 15,
Yeah.
yes.
You don't want to close all 10 or 15 at once.
But if you have just 2 or 3 open, I don't believe that's going to be a ding on your account. But it's, I think, from what I've heard from speaking to a mortgage lender, they said it's when you have lots of credit cards open, that it's not a good thing.
And I'd rather have my credit kind of altered for a while and have them all closed than have them open because I'm concerned about my credit, because the more cards we have open, the more likely it is someone can get a hold of one of them and use them. If you have them open for a reason, keep them open, but keep the card somewhere where you know that they're safe, but they're not, you're not walking around with them every day. But
So you should call the company and just
if you don't want them, close it. Yeah, I would. It's worth it. And it's really only a concern in terms of credit if you're, if you know you're going to be taking out a mortgage anytime soon, or a loan, or getting a new car, or something, some sort of big purchase. So if you know that that's like, a year down the line or 2 years down the line where you might need to do something like that, now would be a good time, I think, to close them.
what about the,
And then shred them.
Equifax?
Equifax?
Sure,
is that a legitimate
sure.
to do?
Sure. Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian are the 3 major credit bureaus, and you can receive a free credit report from each of them every year. And yeah, they're reputable. You can feel comfortable. Some people aren't comfortable filling out the information online on the website, so they'd much rather just call someone and speak to them over the phone and do it that way, and you can absolutely do that. And it's not because people don't trust them, it's that they don't know their own computer system. They don't know how secure that is. So you can always call them as well.
Yes.
Bank of America sends me credit report out every month.
Wonderful.
I don't think I get one of those.
I don't
really.
get, I'm a BayVay person too, and I don't get it either.
Did you have to sign up for it? Did you request it? Or maybe you're like a special member. I don't know. That's really great. That's really good. It's not just the number that's important, though. It's the report itself. Do they send you a whole report?
Great.
Wow. That's amazing. That's
Wow.
wonderful. Yeah, and it's very important that we're all doing at least one credit check, one credit report a year. Sometimes it's the only way to know if someone's gotten a hold of our identity and have accounts open in our name. And so at least one.
And Amy brings up a great point regarding, you never know if someone's grabbed your information, whether it's through a credit card skimming device or someone with a smartphone that has a camera. All it takes is someone with a smartphone, really with a camera. They can take a quick picture of the front and back of your credit card, and away they go, and you don't know what's happened. A good way is always monitoring your accounts. When your statements come in every month, go through it. It's kind of a boring read, but make sure all the charges are really yours. And I can see that you're bringing up this. So she's also bringing up some of our credit cards have near field technology. What that means is your credit card has an antenna, and if your card has an antenna, it has a small little symbol on. It's either the front or the back of the card. It looks like the Wi-Fi symbol. It's usually 3 little half circles that are open. If you have this symbol, that means that your credit card has an antenna, which means if it does, now's when everybody pulls out their cards, like, oh my God. If you have that, it means that your information can be stolen because you're not using the new chip technology to shove, and you're not swiping, you're tapping. It's one reader reading your credit card like that, and it takes 2 seconds. Everybody complains about the chip because it takes 1 minute and 9 seconds. But this can be a little dangerous because a thief can, on the black market, basically get a transponder, and they can go into a room, and they have to be relatively close to you, I think 3 to 5 feet. It's not like they can do it from a mile away, but they can send out a signal, and they will pick up whomever's credit cards have this. So if you have this symbol, you should get, they're called RFID blockers. They sell them in, yep, there we go. They sell them as wallets, as purses, or like,
Yeah,
as long as it
Kohl's,
says
Bed Bath & Beyond.
RFID blocker or at least blocker with a closed lock symbol, that means that your information is not going to be stolen. Now, you don't need this unless you have that symbol on your credit card or a debit card. This also goes actually for passports. If you've renewed your passport since 2007, sorry? Okay, they have a card. So, but the actual full passport has this technology as well. So if you have that, you might want to invest $5 and get a small case for your passport. I got one on Amazon. It was like $7. But it's very easy. I use our own Logan International. What if someone decides, a scammer, to try to get information from people? All they have to do is get, let's just say, a round trip ticket for, say, $400 to Iceland. They can get through customs and they can go into the terminal. And if they've got a transponder, and they can go in and pick up people's passports information. It's not going to have your criminal record, and it does not have your social security number, but it has everything else. So it might not get your social security number, but it's got everything else. So it's just another thing to keep yourself a little bit safer.
Why is this technology being put on these passports?
So it makes going through customs lickety split, because what they do is I just did it when I was going to Italy. The custom guy does this, my information pops up in his computer, he looks through it as opposed to typing all the things in, reading off the number, making sure he has the right thing, and it makes it faster. It comes up on his screen, and your customs, well, in my opinion, it took 2 seconds to get through customs. I didn't have any red flags, and away I could go. They asked me, where are you going, how long you're going to be there, etc., and away I went. It's just fast. People like the fast. They don't like it when something takes a little bit longer. The new chip technology, it's going to be great technology eventually, but people are already complaining about it because it takes a minute and 7 or 10 seconds. And people are like, oh my gosh, what is this? It's driving me crazy. Well, eventually that's going to be really great technology. Once we get the magnetic stripe removed from all of our cards, it will be great technology. But people complain because things aren't fast. People complain if it takes too long at the gas station. Well, people should take a little look around the gas station. You never know if there's a skimming device. If you know what to look for, you'll see them. So if we take a little extra 2 minutes, you will see something.
Are the new credit cards coming out with that?
Yes and no. Some are not. I've only seen a handful. If you have one, you can call your bank or your credit card company and say, I don't want this technology. Could you please send me a new card? It'll probably cost you the replacement, I don't know, $5 or $7. Or if you want to have the technology, no problem. Just buy the little credit card sleeve. It will keep you safer. Yes? So when you say household, are you old bills and things? I would keep things like that locked, absolutely. Because sometimes you just never know, who's going to come into your house. What if it's a new cleaning company? What if you hit your head and not the police, but what if an emergency vehicle comes to get you? What if somebody is a bad apple who's been employed by that person is now stealing information? You just never know. What if you're a new plumber? What if you're a new electrician? Whatever, whoever is coming into your home, if you have personal information like that, it should be locked up. I know we sound completely paranoid, but people, our information is so easy to take. Children are even worse. Children under the age of 18 are 51 times more likely to have their social security number stolen and used. And the thing is, because parents never check it, they never think to check it until they're 18 or 17 and they're going to go get a license, or they're going to rent a car, or they're going to apply for a student loan to go to college, and all of a sudden their credit is run and they realize, oh my gosh, there are 8 credit cards under little Susie. She's 16, how does she have 8 credit cards? Or they realize that there are 6 DUIs, driving under the influence. And that child had no idea that she just got her license for the first time. Well, someone picked up her information and got new licenses in 5 or 6 different cities. And it happens. And it's very, very difficult to clear a child. It's very, 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 very difficult for us to clear it. The national average to clear up identity theft is roughly 350 hours of your own time, filling out paperwork, standing in line, making phone calls. It's not pleasant. So the more we can look at this information and make sure our information is locked down and our children's information is locked down. If a scammer can hack into NASA, they can get into your child's, nursery school, and now all of a sudden, look at all that information. We have little Susie who's 6, and here's her social security number, here's her address, but we have 50 kids, and they're going to get that information and use it against them. So you just never know. Yes. In my experience, I've only seen it on the front. Yes. that's a whole other presentation with pictures, but what a lot of things that you can look for when if you're at the gas station pump, or if you're at the ATM, or inside a bank, if the machine that you are using to swipe your card or to use the chip, I'm going to use Bank of America just as an example, not a scammy company. If B of A, their registered trademark colors are red, white, and blue. Now they have a little bit of black in it. If you go to a B of A machine, and wherever you put where you're supposed to put the card is like purple or yellow, that should be a little bit of a red flag. B of A they have their marketing department. They would never put a purple card reader on their registered, trademarked company's ATM. And the same goes for if you're going to be using the gas station. All of our big companies, they have their trademarked colors. So if something looks really outlandishly different, like green, that doesn't match. It doesn't make sense. If where you're putting your card is loose, if it's not solid or there's a big bump out, you might not want to use that. Sometimes there's glue residue that will hang off. The best, if you want a lot of pictures, you can just do a Google search and type in credit card skimming devices. Worldwide, millions of pictures will pop up. Click on pictures, images from all over the world will come up. Some of them are very, very obvious. Some of them, unfortunately, are not because they are actually inside of these machines. A lot of the gas station ones are actually inside because it can take a thief under a minute to get in, implant it, and get out and lock it back up. So when we always say monitor your accounts, because once a skimming device gets your information, a lot of our scammers, as Amy mentioned, they're not going to go and do a $10,000 shopping spree at Best Buy. They're going to go do $2 at like CVS or $3 at wherever company. They're going to do these $2 or $3 things, and because they're hoping that you're not going to notice it. Your bank isn't going to notice it because it's $3. But if you are monitoring your accounts and your information like a hawk, as well as getting a credit report, annualcreditreport.com, cheap and easy, it's free. You'll see something. If your information's been picked up, you will see it.
And because we can't control often where these skimming devices are going to be, and we can't detect what they look like often, it's just much safer to use a credit card versus a debit
Yes, there we
card
go.
for most, if not all, transactions that we make every day. I can't remember the last time I used my debit card unless I had to go to the teller to get cash for something or deposit something and had to swipe it. A credit card is just much, much, much safer for a number of reasons. But the big one is that if someone gets a hold of either number, if they use the debit card information, then the money is immediately extracted from our account. It still takes like 2 to 3 months to fill out the paperwork and convince the bank it wasn't really you, or the credit card company it wasn't you. But at least if it was the credit card that was taken advantage of, you're not responsible for that money at any point, let alone within that first, those 3 months of waiting to get the funds back. If it's the debit and they take everything, then you're without that money until that paperwork is filled out, and it's maybe 3 months later. So always the credit card if possible.
Can we answer other questions?
Yeah, any other questions?
Yes.
Someone might just have a wrong number. That could
So
just be it.
I got the same call. It
Really?
wasn't from Shelby, Arkansas. It was from a prison somewhere here in Massachusetts. But they call it my work number. So I work for the state. It says I work for the state, and they left a message. So I would hang up. Or you could maybe do a Google search for the prison. I actually did that. I want to know where it was.
Yeah,
Maybe
call
give them a
report
call
it,
and
yeah.
say, hey, what's going on with your inmates?
Yeah.
I think you're
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would call the main prison number. I don't know what that would be or how to find it, but I would call. You never know. You never know. Any other
Yes.
questions?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I forwarded them to the Federal Trade Commission. I forward everything to the federal. They probably hate me, but I don't care. They have spam departments because I think the more information that we can give them, it's another piece of the puzzle that's eventually going to help them catch somebody. It can take years. It can take years to find one scammer. They did find a den in I was going to say Italy, in India, but it's just the more information we can give them. I get all kinds of wacky emails all the time, and I'm constantly forwarding it to them. And then still block it, yes.
Or spam or.
Yes. Sure. Mhm. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
And log in.
Yep. Oh, sure. Yep. So most companies, I use Visa Chase, or Chase Visa, and they have a fraud department. So when I get texts, weird emails, phone calls, I will forward it to the fraud@chase.com. You just have to either call or email your bank or whatever credit card company you use and ask them, what's your fraud department? Because they should see that, because then they can put out alerts to everybody all of their customers. Sometimes they'll put it right out in their front page. Hey, we are not sending out spammy emails. We are not looking to verify your social security number. There is a 0.01% chance you'll ever can change your social security number. It very rarely ever happens. But even if you do happen to get your social security number changed, it's still going to be attached to the new one. So it's still going to be part of you. So even if so the good way to know if someone's scamming you, we want to update your social security number. No, they don't need to update it. It hasn't changed. You're not in witness protection. They haven't changed you. But it's still going to be part of the new if you are that 0.01% chance to have it changed. You send it FedEx, do you not? I would. Okay, I would just send that FedEx. At least you have signatures. I don't, and I'm sorry about our postal service. I would send anything like that kind of information, especially if it's going to have your social security number, all of this banking information. I would send that registered, whether it's through the post office, whether it's through registered mail, UPS or FedEx. I just wouldn't just do willy-nilly, we'll let it go. Put 3 stamps on it. I just think you're asking for a lot of trouble. Did you? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, anytime I have information like that, kind of like dealing with the HR department, if it's not going FedEx, I will walk it myself. Did you have a question? Sure. Sure.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the times, or I would say all of the times, that we receive phone calls from a representative saying that they're calling on behalf of the police department or fire department, it's actually an outside administrative organization calling on behalf of them, because I think that the police and fire departments are actually not allowed to make phone calls because it's a conflict of interest, I believe. But it's the outside organizations that are calling, and they often make a large sum of what it is that we donate. So if they're calling, we always just tell people, you know what, ask them how much of what I donate is going to you and how much is going to the police department. And they should be transparent, and if they're not, then that would be a big red flag.
It's illegal for them not to answer that. They have to tell you what percentage is actually going to the police department or the Red Cross. They have to tell you. Or the Animal League, well, first of all, go to Charity Navigator and see if it really is a charity. If it's really something you want to donate to, call them up. Call the local police department. Say, hey, I'm thinking about making a donation to you specifically. How can I make sure you get all of my donation? and ask them specifically.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Please.
I noticed in your handout, practice security and privacy, it looks really depth in each.
Oh, sure, yep.
And just recently, I was at the K-5 job fair and online, and um, I noticed that it was just HTTP, and my computer said your website, and I'm thinking, this is a job fair. You're looking for people to hire. Obviously, you're going to have your home phone, your cell phone, your email on your resume.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why would so I logged in, I logged in and signed up, but I didn't send my resume because I'm not sure.
Sure.
It's the way.
I think that's safe.
It's shocking that,
I agree.
That's very
Yeah.
surprising.
and I've been
Yeah.
getting a lot more of these messages, because it's not secure, on my Outlook. It's starting to say this is not secure, so now I can go in a different way to yes, and log in.
Absolutely go in a different way to make sure that that is secure. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great that you need
Yes.
to look for it though,
Yes.
because a lot of people don't, and they'll just go to any website and put in any information, and that's where the trouble is too. Because there's websites and they say, oh, it's free, but we need your credit card on file, or it's $1.99 service. If it's free, it's free, and I don't want to put my information anywhere. Any final questions? Please. Oh, good.
Okay. Oh, wonderful.
Oh,
Great.
Well, I'll be in the car on the way home, so
Yeah.
I will listen to it. That's really 90.9.
Okay.
I will be listening. Thank
Wonderful.
you. Thank you all so much
Yes.
for being here.
Thank you so much for coming.
You had great questions.
Yeah. I'm like, sorry.